take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy?
I'm a human being, god damn it! My life has value! It's time to ask yourself what you believe.
Mass murder, torture, perjury, embezzlement, fraud, deception, treason. These are just a few of your many crimes against humanity. You will not win this war, for you are fighting the very essence of humanity.
Hi, welcome to Truth or Talk. I'm April Bush.
And I'm Verstine Henry.
You can visit our website at truthertalk.com and see the things that we are working on, our archive shows, our essays, our T-shirt, and our book by our friend Liam Sheff. Not our book, but our book by our friend Liam Sheff. We are selling it on our website, The Official Stories by Liam Sheff. So, speaking of official stories, we have, we're going to be we brought back Ole Dammegard from Light on Conspiracies. LightOnConspiracies.com is his website, and we had him on, and we realized once we had him on that we weren't able to get to a lot of the questions that we wanted to ask him, so we immediately asked him if he would come back. And so this is part 2 of the interview with Ole Dammegard from Light on Conspiracies. You guys can find and sign up for his newsletter and all that at his website, lightonconspiracies.com. So, yeah, he's coming back on. We're going to ask him about a little bit more about his trip to Bilderberg. He mentioned it on the first show, but we wanted to bring him back because we didn't actually realize that until after he came on.
Oh, yeah, but he'd been to Bilderberg. We were like, sweet, because we were trying to get somebody for a while to come on to talk about Bilderberg that's actually been and see what it was like and get their point of view on it. So,
yeah, we wanted to talk about that, and it's important to discuss these secret societies and things like that, and because Bilderberg is, I guess it's a meeting. It's not really a secret society, but they meet in secret.
Or the secret societies meet. Is it like a meeting for the secret societies? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, it's because a lot of these guys are involved in some of these other secret societies too. They come and they meet there, and it's like they're basically like Bohemian Grove and Skull and Bones from Harvard University. Those guys, and whatever. Like, there's a bunch of those dudes doing God knows what, and that's the whole problem. Is like there should be disclosure. If they're going to be making decisions that affect us, we should know where they're meeting and what they're talking about.
Totally common sense. I mean, you would think that if it really has benefit for humanity, why aren't they airing it like live, or like they have like conferences and other like the Oscars? I don't know. They should be airing it as live as they're airing like the Super Bowl and stuff like that. If it really has to do with if it's really for our well-being. And it's not like they're getting together to discuss, to have a barbecue, or, they're dictating like, wars, and not dictating, I'm sorry, but they're like planning wars and, basically world destruction for their own benefit. So that's why they're doing it behind closed doors.
Yeah, exactly. And so, right, exactly, because if you think about it, all these things that have happened behind closed doors, like the creation of the Federal Reserve was done at a secret meeting on Jekyll Island with these bankers who got together and said, oh, we're going to do this. We're going to start making printing our own money out of nothing, and we're going to take all the valuable income away from the people.
Yeah.
Good idea, folks. Wouldn't it have been nice? No one found that out until, 10, 15 years later? And, something like that.
But they have all these fake gatherings, too, to make it look like they're helping. Like, they'll have, like a TED Talk by, like, Bill Gates, where he looks like you know what I mean? It's, like, so fake and phony. Oh, I'm looking like, quote, unquote, I'm trying to help the world. They come out in public and speak about fake shit, Or they'll give Al Gore the Nobel Peace Prize, or they'll give Obama the Nobel Peace Prize, even though he's created more wars since he's been in office. And at the time of receiving the Peace Prize, he didn't even do anything.
Right.
But they make it look good. It's very fascinating. I mean, it's evil at its most brilliant because it's very well calculated, and I think, they really know how to play upon people's egos and their insecurities, and I think this is another reason why people get away with so much, because people don't want to admit that they've been lied to. We're just watching some stuff we're trying to get Norman Finkelstein on, and we were watching just basically how he talks about how people use propaganda, even in the academic world, to create fake controversy. Where instead of like nobody really looks at the facts. So if somebody writes something that maybe the people in power don't want people to look at, they'll have other people come out and comment on them, calling them names like a racist or whatever derogatory name that you can think of, and in that case, people won't even bother to listen to what they have to say, because people are like, oh, well, I'm not going to listen to a racist. Well, how do you know he's racist? Oh, because I read, the news told me, or I read something that said he was. Well, why can't you actually listen to what they have to say? When you want somebody to do that to you, it's so just, I mean, you would think, if anybody's ever been the victim of school gossip or defamation of character within their job, their workplace, or their school, they should really have an understanding of what it feels like when you feel like you've been lied on or grossly misrepresented or misunderstood, and nobody wants to hear your side,
Right. Yeah, it's true. I know, and and so these guys, that's the kind of shit that they pull, is just they get in their little secret hovels and just start talking, and that's how they, I guess, use people's egos, like you said, to, bring us down and to make us fight, each other when it's really them, like, doing all this, orchestrating all this, and so, I don't know, maybe we'll ask him this, who the attendees of the Bilderberg this last year were. Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't know. And I don't know if you would know. I mean, because I know when we'll ask him, but I know when they go in the little black cars, they're like, their windows are tinted, so it's very hard. But I think whoever they, there's some inside people that give information out, and I think that they usually have a list of people. You might be able to even type a list, see if you can get a list off the internet or something. Maybe, I don't know.
No, I just Googled it right quick, and I got a list, but I don't recognize most of these people from...
Google it.
I Googled it right quick. Let's see, many of these people are from other countries. It looks like a pretty extensive list, but I mean, these guys are... from what I'm seeing, it's like a lot of bankers, a lot of people in the financial, in the financial world and things like that, trying to, get together and talk about it. Because it's always the same guys. It's always like the bankers running everything. I mean, somebody once said, what is the worst conspiracy that has played out in this thing? And I think it really comes down to the money, because I don't think any of these other things would be possible, because that's how all these other conspiracies kind of like sprout off from it. The pharmaceutical industry is all about, making a bunch of money and all of that, and that's how, I mean, it's tiered. You could say, well, there's a eugenics operation and all of that, for sure. I think there's evidence to show that that's a possibility for certain. But why? Like, who wants to, who wants to control the population, and why? And what's their end goal? A eugenics thing going on? Are they just doing it because they want us to die, or do they want to control it, or something like that? As for, so I think it all stems from like the financial institutions, like the bankers and this and that, and they make it so confusing. We've been fighting it. We want to do a show specifically about money, but we're both so like scared to talk about
we just feel so ignorant about. I mean, we probably have to do a lot more research and stuff before we can.
Dude, I know. Well, I mean, I feel like I have done a lot of research on it, but it still doesn't sort of sink in, you know, like some of this other stuff is.
Is it because
I got it.
Is it because it's lies and your brain doesn't soak in lies?
I think it's my own mental block. I think it's my own feeling of inadequacy when it comes to understanding math. So I tend to gloss over it or not really. It doesn't sort of penetrate my mind, you know.
But I think that's also kind of done because a lot of people don't. I think that's done by design too. A lot of people.
Yeah.
But just being a teacher and see how information is taught to children in the educational system. People in academia in high regards, you know, that they're evolved human beings, but they're really not. They just, you know, they're just ignorant with fancier words. And sometimes, in some cases, even more ignorant because they think that they're smarter than they are. They think they know more than they actually do. But, you know, they're so closed and they don't, you know, they end up not really learning. They kind of stay stuck because you can't, you know, they have this God complex sometimes. I know I'm being general. I'm just like I'm talking about the academics who are assholes, okay? Because Norman Finkelstein is an academic. I don't think he's an asshole. You know, he's very strong in his opinion, but I think that he's somebody that's really looked at both sides of the story, the situation before, you know, really making any judgment. And I think most people that are really sensitive about that or sensitive to Israel they're just being fed the propaganda and not looking, you know. They don't really understand what's going on. So.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Precisely. So, but anyway, it's just interesting. So we back to what we're going to be talking about today, which is, I guess we'll just be getting into a lot of the things that Ole has researched and studied on that you can find on his website, Slide on Conspiracy, which he's gotten into a lot of the assassinations of famous politicians and celebrities such as JFK and Whitney Houston. I guess it's of his opinion. We all know JFK was assassinated, but it was of his opinion that Whitney Houston was also, and some of these other people in music industry and stuff like that. And I don't know how much of an expert he is on all of that, but he definitely has some insights on a few of these things that have happened. And he was an attendee at Bilderberg this last time around, so he had some experience there, and we were kind of curious about that and wanted to ask him about how these secret societies work and how they are used to manipulate us and all of that. And you remember that the guy, Jim Tucker, who used to do, he was the first to expose the Bilderberg. He's a journalist, and he started, I don't know how long ago he exposed their ass, but they were in secret for many years before anyone found out about it, and he was the first to kind of blow the whistle on what they were doing and all this. And he passed away, I think, a year or so ago.
Yeah.
But he was but you know, he was older. I mean, he was an old guy. He did a lot of good stuff in his time. So, but I wonder, I can't remember when it was. But I think it was like well before internet and all of that. He was 78 when he died, and I just Googled it. No, I didn't Google it. I used DuckDuckGo. Do you use DuckDuckGo?
No, I don't.
Yeah, DuckDuckGo.
I should, shouldn't I?
Yeah, they don't track you. I will say sometimes I do go back to Google because they just are a good search engine. They just pull up. They know how to find what you're looking for. It's amazing.
All over the world. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just amazing how they do that. They've got the algorithms to, you know. But DuckDuckGo is pretty good, and they don't track you. They don't keep track of your what you're doing. So that's kind of nice of them. So there are some alternatives to Google, just to put it out there.
I'm playing devil's advocate. How do you really know that they don't? They're saying that they don't track you. How do you know for sure? Do you know for sure?
Oh, no, I don't know for sure at all because that's just what they tell you. They tell, you know.
They're like, we're tracking your ass, basically.
I mean, I don't know. People who are IT experts who are really good at, computers and internet and stuff like that might have a way of telling. But for me personally, I don't have a clue. But if you go on their site, it says DuckDuckGo. And that's the first thing they tell you is the search engine that doesn't track you. And then they give you an example about how that works. They show you how other places use they use a funny, or they used to, they use a funny cartoon on how to show you about what privacy means to you. And then they said, so it's like, they give you an example of, let's say, you typed in something and it led you to herpes, and then next thing you know, it's like, this person likes herpes,
Yeah, it's like a herpes drug or something, or
yeah, exactly. And then that's sort of, and then that's sort of attached to you. And so then they give an explanation about, how they do it, and they don't do it like that. So it basically, they don't keep your history. So that you don't, and they give full disclosure on all that. So, I mean, just hoping that I don't know. I mean, if they are lying, I would hope that somebody who's really good at being able to figure that out would figure it out for me. Because I know I can't figure that out. I haven't a clue. But it certainly couldn't be any worse than Google.
You're right.
But, right? I mean, Google is like, speaking of Bilderberg, I want to say the Google guy was at Bilderberg, once or twice? I don't know.
Oh, that's right, yeah. And Facebook did too.
Yep. So these guys go, they love it. They love their secret conspiracies. And they're all about full disclosure. They sit there and go, oh, well, everything can be on the internet. We can just, our music, our social environments, everything, why not just put it all out there and have full disclosure? But meanwhile, they're having secret meetings. Like,
yeah, I know. Do as I say, not as I do, right?
Exactly.
Assholes. Anyway.
I would love to be a fly on the wall at the Bilderberg one of these days,
Yeah, I picture it. I'm sorry. I did.
Go ahead.
You faded out and I missed. You said you'd love to be a fly on the wall?
Yep. at the Bilderberg. I'd love to just sit and listen. And not be seen or heard.
Yeah, just...
yeah, invisible.
Definitely.
To them. I don't want them to see me, but then I can see them.
Maybe, I picture it as, have you seen that movie, The Witches, where the witches have the conference? This little boy. It's like, it's an old movie about the witches. This little boy stumbles up on a witches conference. Mm-hmm. And they end up turning him into a mouse so he doesn't, get out and expose them. But I picture it like that. I picture Bilderberg like that witches conference. Have you ever seen the movie? It's kind of...
I haven't. Yeah, that sounds funny. No, I haven't seen that, but that's a cute way to put it, though. A witches conference.
Yeah, but I mean, it's funny because they all, look, they're all polished, and this looks like a women's conference. Everybody looks nice, and then when they close the doors, they lock the doors and everything, and then they take off their shoes, and their feet are all deformed, and they take off their wigs. They all have wigs because I guess in that version, witches don't have hair, and they take off their prosthetic noses, and their noses pop out. I feel like they're gonna go to this conference, and then they're gonna take off their masks. They're gonna be these horrible monsters. I don't know. I know I'm exaggerating. I know I may be being a little bit far fetched, but when I think of Bilderberg, I swear that's what the image that pops into my mind is that conference.
Yeah, I don't know what they do at the Bilderberg. I mean, I think that there are some of their secret meetings that are really creepy. As far as they get into occult and weird shit. I don't think that's the purpose of the Bilderberg. I think that one is more along the lines of, it's business. They're setting policy. They want to, this is how we're going to. And many politicians have attended there. Has Obama been to Bilderberg? I don't know.
I think that it's been, I'm trying to think, it's been said that he has been. I don't think anybody has any pictures of him there.
Okay. Yeah, I think that Bill Clinton did, in fact, admit that he went to Bilderberg. But as far as Obama goes, I think you're right. I think we don't really know for certain. But... these guys are weird. They're setting policy. They're trying to set, control the world and just figure out how they're going to lay out our lives for us. But then when it comes to some of these other, and they're involved with the CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, all these, and that's what Jim Tucker was putting together in his book, I think, was showing how these guys are all basically planning the New World Order. And then, but then they have these other societies like the Bohemian Grove and the, what was the other one? I can't say I know of a real name for it, but it's but I always picture the scenes in the movie Eyes Wide Shut by Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one, I always picture the scenes in that movie where, those are what the rituals look like, you know. And some people say that that's true. I don't know how they know. I haven't done enough research on it, and I can't say that I've delved down that rabbit hole. But but you know what I'm talking about? Like, there's rituals, everyone's got a mask, and they're all, like, creepy, and they're sticks with fire on them, and, you know, torches. It's like, what are they doing? And they have prostitutes and naked women walking around, and you're just like, whoa, this is weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
Yeah, and you're like, that's a really weird kind of practice. But these guys are doing, that's what they're doing, and I don't know. But, yeah, and there certainly seems to be some kind of tie-in to that type of, like, seedy behavior, and, like, also, just, I don't know, doing ritualistic things with children and with all kinds of, so certainly it's gross, and we want to expose them, because it's not, I mean, I don't know anyone that's okay with that. It's once they know about it. They say how the Bilderberg is kind of written off as a crazy conspiracy, but I mean, we all know about it now. We all know about it now. So how's anyone okay with that? That they're able to just
because I've had debates with people, and they say, they get defended again because they're just like, oh well, they're just rich people, and why are you're just jealous of them, or you just giving them a hard time because they have money? Why can't they hang out in private or meet in private? You know, they don't want to hear it. So I just, they don't really get the severity of it. I think a lot of people don't care. A lot of people are distracted. They'd rather watch, whatever their TV show which is fine. Like, I'm not against watching those things, but I think, when people start, looking at the world around them and they're complaining about, and they say things, they're like, why do wars happen, or why, then you think about stuff like that, and it's that's one of the components of why it happens, yet people don't want to talk about it. So basically they want to complain, yet they don't want to talk about it. I don't know.
No, you're right. Yeah, it's true. So, I think we're going to go ahead and take a short break, and then when we get back, we're going to bring Ole Dammegard from Light on Conspiracies on, so we can talk to him and ask him more about the Bilderberg and some of the other stuff that he's researched on his website. He's done a lot of extensive research, as I said before, on these assassinations and some research into MKUltra or I guess the manufactured serial killers. So we were going to ask him a little bit about that too. So please stay with us. We will be right back.
Right.
Hello. Thanks for having me on your radio. Even though we're not from a famous rock and roll band, if we were, even though we sound a little like we are, we definitely wear a Conspiracy Realist t-shirt, because they're gear, aren't they? Oh yeah, they're really gear. I want to write a song about them. Conspiracy Realist t-shirts at truthatease.com. I gotta think of the middle 8. Shop.truthatease.com. What does that mean? It's the internet. What's that? I don't know. It's a net. It's between things. Shop.truthatease.com. What's that? It's where you get Conspiracy Realist t-shirts. Oh, gear.
Welcome back to Truth or Talk. On today's show, we're bringing back Ole Dammegard. Ole is a prize-winning author and has written several books. He is an investigator, former journalist, and more. For more than 30 years, he has worked very hard on solving the mystery behind the assassination of the Swedish Prime Minister Olof Palme, something that has turned out to be a very dangerous task and has cost the lives of some dear friends. Not only does he humbly believe that he has managed to solve one of the century's biggest murder mysteries, his extensive research has also revealed incredible links to other political events like the killing of JFK, John Lennon, Robert Kennedy, Che Guevara, Salvador Allende, Pablo Neruda, and many others, as well as the cold-blooded sinking of the MS Estonia, taking almost 1,000 innocent lives. Please welcome to the show, Ole Dammegard. Hello, Ole. Good morning, or good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You are in the afternoon right now, so how are you?
Hi, Amity.
Yes.
I'm super fine, thank you. Very blessed.
Good. Well, we're glad to have you back, and we missed talking to you. We had so much to ask you the first time we had you on that we didn't get to all of our questions, and one of the things that we were really interested in asking you about that we didn't get a chance to talk about, which was your expertise or your research that you've done on the manufacturing or making of serial killers. Or let me put that differently. Do you believe that serial killers are born, or are they manufactured? And do you know of any kind of link between that and the MK Ultra projects or mind control projects?
I think that both type exists. As far as I know, you got some real serial killers, but also there's quite a few manufactured ones that have been raised from very early age. I know some examples that they've been sort of, I wouldn't say abducted, but taken under their wings, to say, at the age of 4 or 5, and then they train them. They start to let them kill animals, and then once they get used to that, they go for children, then from children upwards, and then in the end, they are totally numb when it comes to any kind of emotion regarding killings, and that's when they start being able to use them the way they want. So it's there are some, the ones I know, they were trained in the early or mid-50s, that early, and they were taken under the wings of a former SS officer, very high-ranking, who an expert in torture and killings, all type of killings, and he was the one that trained them. And well, they've been active their whole lives. So one of the ways they also do is that they take the person they want to turn into, or either a patsy or a serial killer and so on, and they let them go through very, very horrific experiences, so that in the end their personality splits up in more than two or more, and then they can compartmentalize these personalities, so that one personality has absolutely no idea what the other one has done, and so on, and then they can sort of activate them so that they go from one to the other on special commands, special secret words that activate them, and so on, which makes them very, very hard to track, because the innocent personality of this person has absolutely no idea that his alter ego, or whatever you want to call it, what he has been up to. So they can track their traces very efficiently. So no, it's an awful area to get into, I think, because it's so cruel and with such cold-bloodedness behind these type of actions.
Yeah, it sounds like when we had you on last time, we asked you about Mark David Chapman, who was the man that, in the official story, shot John Lennon. And it seems like I remember even in the official story they said that when they found him sitting on the park bench, like, he didn't remember doing it. Wasn't that true? Something like that? He didn't remember what he had just done, or that he was even there?
But this is standard procedure. These people, the so-called patsy that have been under mind control, one of the things is that they do not remember anything from a few hours before the event, and then until afterwards when they're sitting there, and they go in like a zombie state after whatever they carried out. They go into they're just standing there doing absolutely nothing, being totally not trying to run away, not trying to do anything, just like zombies. And then afterwards, when you hear them talk about the event, it's like a recorded story. They keep repeating the same words, the same way of putting together the sentences, the same recollection of the event, and so on. But these are triggered memories. They're not the real thing. They're things that have been prepared. And so, yeah, he was one of them. Sirhan was another one, Robert Kennedy, totally innocent to the murder of her. And both of these people, totally innocent, are still rotting away in jail to this very day.
Yeah, I remember that about Sirhan too. Same thing, like he didn't remember anything when they got him. They grabbed him. And then, what about, what was I going to say? Have you ever seen the movie, I think it was called Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson and Julia Roberts? And, yeah, and I thought that was, at the time, when I saw that movie, I didn't really think anything of it, but then later, when I learned about all this stuff, I was kind of like, that sort of sounds really like what they really do, because that character, played by Mel Gibson, was actually, he was a conspiracy theorist, and he had all these conspiracy ideas, but then he had kind of this, like, mental illness where he would have to go into stores and buy, like, compulsively had to buy Catcher in the Rye. Like, and then it turned out that he was being trained or mind controlled by the CIA or something like that. So would you say that that's kind of how they do it? They take people?
I can't remember the film, so I can't answer that question. I can only remember seeing it, and this guy who looked crazy with all of these theories, a lot of the things he said, a lot of the things he pointed at was actually conspiracy facts, not theories. But then I can only remember that Hollywood took over and explosions, boom, bang, romance with Julia Roberts. I can't remember it, so.
Typical Hollywood, right?
Yeah, typical Hollywood.
What is the the criteria that is necessary for somebody to be used as a patsy, or what are the qualifications? I don't know if qualifications is the right word, but what do they look for in somebody that they use to be a patsy?
One of the things, if we're talking mind control, like if you have shows with hypnotism, the hypnotist, he says, "Come on, please come up on stage," and maybe 40 people go up there. Then he do different tests to see how responsive they are to hypnosis, and then he keeps like a small handful of people where he does his tricks, and the whole show is carried out around these people. The patsies that are like Sirhan, Chapman, these people have gone through, I'm sure, many different tests so that they're handpicked for being the most receptive to this type of treatment. And after that, they've been trained for years, prepared for years. And also, one of the things that they also need to, it's not only that they're receptive for these kinds of things, but they need to work in media when it comes to appearance and so on. Many of them look mentally weak, or maybe they look like a Muslim or a Romanian, or because it needs to be so that the public eye will say, "Oh my God, yes, he is guilty, I am sure." So it's he can't look like Clark Gable or some movie star. Then again, nowadays they're moving it. The last mass shooting, I think, was it in Seattle or where it was, where they used this model type of looking guy. So they've soon covered the whole spectrum, so that we would fear just everyone.
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because are you familiar with Kathy O'Brien?
Kathy, it sounds very familiar. She's the wife of no, maybe I'm mixing them together. Please.
Yeah. She's an outspoken, I guess, MK Ultra victim too, and she goes into detail about like how she was basically raped and tortured, and to the point where she had split personalities. And I guess she got to a certain point in her life where her personality started to merge, and she started to remember the stuff that she did. But she was mostly used, I guess, as an assassin too. Sometimes she was also used to retrieve information, because one of her personalities they programmed to have a photographic memory. And she also was used as kind of like a sex slave for politicians, is what she says. But in her instance, she was saying that her and then people that she knew like that were actually given to the government as children, and the government, basically, or basically her father, I guess what she's saying, her father, sold her into, or gave her to the government, and he basically bred the rest of his children to be sold into this experimentation as well. And one of the things that she said what happened was she mentioned was like molestation and torture at a very early age, so that her personalities would split. Because kind of like you were talking, before, how the personality, they're subjected to all kinds of things, whether it's physical torture or they're subjected to, really like rape, really harsh rape, to the point where it's so traumatic for them that they have to develop another personality. I think
that's absolutely awful. There's so many of these stories. There's so many of these stories. They use a lot of drugs as well to help in the whole procedure to speed it up. So horrendous. Oh,
definitely. And so I know, like, I think Arizona. There's Wilder's another one that has come out. Aaron McCollum. Are you familiar with him? He's come out and he's talked about. But all of them have been in it since they were children. Because their families basically. Their families basically, sold them into, into this experimentation, which is terrible. But as far as like Sirhan and Mark David Chapman, I wonder if they were in it when they were younger, or if they when they were adults and they were discovered to have certain be susceptible to certain programming or whatever. It makes me wonder. And then you think about all those killings that happened like in the 70s with Charles Manson and stuff like that. Did that have anything to do with it? Have you come across any information about that?
I've come across a lot of theories, a lot of things that I don't know if are facts or not, but it's these people behind MKUltra and so on. They've been active for a long, long time, very active with all these type of experiments and things. So I'm not the right person to ask, but I sure have heard a lot about it. That's for sure.
Well, what about like some specific ones, like Charles Manson, or do you know anything about him?
I do, but I'm not an expert in this MKUltra and serial killer area, so I prefer, I can speculate, but I prefer, sticking to the things I know about, and then it's better if you interview people who really know their stuff in this area.
Right. Yeah, okay.
So why don't we, I wanted to talk a little bit more about Bilderberg, too, because we got into it a little bit. But we had other questions to ask you, so we wanted to talk to you a little bit about Bilderberg. You were saying that, what was it, I mean, you told us a little bit about it. What was it like? How long were you there, and what was your experience with other reporters that were reporting at Bilderberg?
Well, for the listeners who might not know about the Bilderberg Group, I believe that it's a very, very essential part of the hidden world government that is part of the New World Order. I've studied up to a certain level in this pyramid of power, and at that level, it's not the absolute top. I leave that to other people who know more, but to the level I go, there's the Trilateral Commission, the Committee of 300, the Council on Foreign Relations, and there's the Bilderberg Group. Now, the Bilderberg Group was created in 1954 in Hotel Bilderberg in Oosterbeek in Holland. Why they chose this name, I have no idea. They could have called themselves whatever. But I think just to call themselves, they took the name of the hotel. And this group was created by members in the global elite at that time, that after the Second World War were sort of regrouping, trying to see, okay, we took it so far with the Second World War, now let's see how we can continue our quest to centralize the power to fewer and fewer and fewer. So it's the same power elite and same financial interest that were behind both world wars, the Depression, and the creation of the Bilderberg Group. Many, many others as well. They've been extremely active for decades and decades. So it was Prince Bernhard of Holland and some other royalties and people from the banking system and the military-industrial complex. They joined together. And the idea was that with a small steering committee of about 8 to 10 people, they would invite key people in key positions from every single Western country, every NATO country and so on, so that they, through if they could control very specific people, just a handful, a country like Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Germany, Belgium, you would only need like maybe 10, 12 people, but in the key positions. We're talking royalties, banking, media, the judge of the high courts, the police system, you name it, business, communication, all of these different areas that are necessary to get a society going. If you can control the right people at the top of their pyramid, inside the pyramid itself, you can more or less control that country and push your agenda forward, your hidden agenda forward, and then push that country towards your goal more and more without the population having no idea at all. That was the idea, and that was what they started doing in '54. They started inviting top politicians, royalties, bankers, businessmen, from media, you name it, all the different key people they could think of that could gain value to their agenda, they invited. And if these people were people that they saw would become loyal to their cause and could benefit their cause, their career very often just skyrocketed after they joined the Bilderberg Group. And if they couldn't use them, they just got rid of them after a year or two or something. So it started, and every single year since '54 until 2014, it's 60 years today, they have met once a year in different locations every year. Very top secret most of the time, with the media having absolutely no idea what's going on or being invited in or anything like that. Normal people have not heard about them either. And they have, for many years, said that they were a very, like a think tank, just a nice group of people who met in privacy just to be able to discuss things without having media up their nose. But the thing is that these meetings have been more and more, with more and more protection and more difficult to find out what's going on in there. And when you look at the magnitude, the power people, I mean the people in power positions from many different countries meeting in total secrecy, you have a major problem there. Because these people, I mean, we got foreign minister meeting other foreign minister meeting people from the secret services of different countries, together with the military-industrial complex, together with royalties, together with all of that without nobody knowing that it even happens. So this is why I have spent many years of my life trying to reveal who are the members, what is the agenda, and where is the location. And on my website, lightonconspiracies.com, in my book, Coup d'etat in Slow Motion, the last 200 pages is just membership list of the Bilderberg Group, the people attending the meetings, where they were attended, and the agenda, year by year by year. And when you compare that to the history of the world, you see 1954, what was discussed, who were the people there, what decisions were taken, and then you see what happened the year after, and you do that year by year by year, you will see that, oh my God, the parallels are incredible. You know, so many of these things that many researchers, myself included, that would claim that whatever decisions are made in these meetings is what is forming the year to come. You know, wars have been started there. Financial devastation has been started there. People have been taken out. Like Thatcher it was decided the year before she was taken out of power. That was decided at the Bilderberg meeting. People invited there, like Tony Blair or Bill Clinton and so on. Just within a year after they were invited there, boom, their career just went straight out there, and within a year or two, prime minister or president. And this is standard procedure. So it's very, very interesting when you find out and see how these people are linked together. I mean, these are people you would never, ever dream of even knew each other, and then you see that they're a member of this same secret club. So not good for democracy.
No. Plus, it goes against an international law called the Logan Act, right? That forbids unauthorized citizens from negotiating with foreign governments. So, it's creepy that they're breaking the law in front of everybody else's faces, huh?
No, it's high treason if you look at it. I mean, many of these people, the politicians and so on, they should be sentenced for treason, because this is what's going on. And then people say to me like, yeah, but what's the big deal? Why can't you just leave them alone? Why do you always have to see conspiracies? I would say, okay, to these people, many of them are very interested in soccer and football. So
they're not having a barbecue.
they know how to barbecue. No,
but they're not getting together for a barbecue.
That is true. No, but if I said that, okay, the World Cup in Brazil now, if people suddenly found out that all the teams, all the trainers, all the owners of the teams, all the judges, the football, judges, all the sponsors, all the companies involved in this, all the arrangers, the builders, the construction companies that will build the Olympic things were having these super secret meetings, wouldn't that cause sort of like some kind of suspicion that something odd was going on?
Oh, yeah.
And here we are with people involved in all aspects of life, all aspects of your life, and they have been meeting for 60 years in total secrecy every single year. I tell you, these people are very active, and they have changed world history so many times that it just makes your head spin once you look into it.
Right. And some of the elite families, like the top elite families, seem to be there every year, or their family, their offspring, like the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and
they're key people. They're always there. Henry Kissinger, David Rockefeller, standard, always there. I mean,
those guys live a long time.
It's been going on for a long time. These people, with these white-haired old guys, they didn't get white-haired for doing nothing. They've been very, very active. They didn't end up in the White House and so on just for walking around and looking at birds and something like that. They have been very active, very loyal to the cause to get to the position where they are now. And then they get invited to groups like this. And many of the members in these groups are members in more than one. You can be both a member in the Bilderberg, the Trilateral, the Council on Foreign Relations, and some of them even the Committee of 300. So these people are so involved deeply, deeply in what is called the creation of the New World Order. A very, very scary agenda, I would say. I would even dare to call it the Fourth Reich. I mean, when you look at, if you study world history and study how things are carried out, you will see that what has happened in the States since 1990 and onwards, compare that to what happened before the Second World War in Nazi Germany, or before Germany turned Nazi, and you will see the exact same steps being followed, step by step by step by step. All these, the Homeland Security, the Patriot Act, 9/11, all of these things go back, and you will see the exact same parallels, how they carry them out, how they use false flag operations to manipulate the population into accepting their agenda, and so on, and just starting absolute mayhem, wars and destruction everywhere. So it's a violent agenda they have, and I think we need to do what we can to stop them by totally exposing what's going on.
Right.
You mentioned that it was formed in 1954. Is there any possibility, since these families have been in power, way before that, you know. Is there any possibility that it was probably formed before then? Or is this the first written record of Bilderberg was 1954?
This is just that group. I mean, these families have been active long before that. This has been going on for centuries. But the Bilderberg group itself started in 54.
You mentioned the Committee of 300. I haven't heard of that before. Could you elaborate on that a little bit more? Do you know about that?
Yeah, the Committee of 300 are people that are invited into it's the black nobility group, but the agenda for them have been to centralize the banking power globally into one world bank. That is the idea, to take all the different banks and put the whole thing into. The agenda is much bigger than that, but that's the core thing about these. And in that group, I tell you, it's unreal once you see who are invited in there. You got Bill Gates, you got...
Be surprised.
No, many royalties, many, all kind. On my website, I got the list of the current list, and one of the people up there, next to these royalties, next to all of these big, high, top business people and so on, is Stefano della Chiaia, who was he was called the King of Terror. He was sentenced for many massacres in Italy and other countries. He was used by Franco as one of his key assassins, or top assassins, and he was part of the assassination of Olof Palme as well. And he's been part of assassinations everywhere, and now he's among these people. You know, just goes to show what's going on behind the scenes.
Did you have a lot of, when you went, were there a lot of people protesting, like a lot of civilians protesting, or was it mainly reporters? And people
at the Bilderberg meeting this year?
Yeah, this year.
Let me just rewind to last year, because 2013, that was the first year when they couldn't hide and deny the existence of this group, because up until then, you had like one-liners in the newspapers, like the Bilderberg meeting was held this weekend, blah, 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 and that's about it. That was the only thing you could find in the normal media. But then more and more researchers, especially a man by the name of Jim Tucker, and people like David Icke, Alex Jones, these people have been exposing, Daniel Estulin, have worked very hard on exposing this group. So they tried to deny it for years and years, and then 2012, 2013, it came to a point where they just couldn't do it anymore because it was getting ridiculous. You know, so suddenly they turned the whole thing around and said, no, we're this very nice group of people, and you're so welcome to come and join us. And last year was the meeting was held in Watford, just outside London, England. And so what they did was the hotel is it's out in the countryside, and what they did, they fenced in a big area out on a meadow where the truth movement came in, totally controlled by police, armed police. There was bodies searched and all of these things, and more or less pushed into this corral. And this corral was like maybe half a kilometer away from the hotel, so they could see it in the horizon, but no way could they get anywhere near there. And so that was one step to exposing them, but by far not the needed step, but it was one step closer anyway. But what happened was that at that point it was just they normally have these meetings around end of May, beginning of June. That is one of the times they like. And just when people, journalists internationally, were sort of getting their eyes open for, my God, does this group really exist? Maybe we should go there. And just when they were packing their bags, then boom, happened the so-called beheading in Woolwich. Do you remember that event? Where two North African men is said to have seen an English soldier in the street in the central London, got very upset because he had a T-shirt on that said "Help for Heroes." They took their car and just crashed into this guy, then jumped out and chopped off his head, then pulled out the body in the middle of the street, walked around there giving interviews saying, we're very sorry that your women had to witness a thing like this, but this is standard in our home country, and so on. Then they walk around there waiting for about 25 minutes for the police to arrive, and then once we're talking central London, 25 minutes. And, they only chopped the head of a guy, so why hurry? Anyway, so when the police finally comes, they're standing around poking their nose, and then they're doing nothing. Then the police arrive, and they suddenly just charge up against the police car and get shot, both of them. I tell you, this one, sometimes I give 2-hour interviews about this incident because it's such a sloppy, badly done false flag operation. Staged event, really, really lousy. So it's a very good example to show how it's carried out, how it's done, and what bullet points they use to dupe the population into believing these things. But what happened was that this was used to divert the attention of media, saying, international media, please look right now, okay? And everybody looked that direction. So instead of focusing on the Bilderberg meeting, suddenly it was the Muslim, we need to get rid of the foreigners, we need to get them out of here. And if that wasn't enough, because I've spoken to CIA operatives who are part of these false flag operations, and they say that they have staff meetings before an event like this, and once it's carried out, they have another meeting just to check if the reaction was the way they wanted it or if they needed to amplify the effect. And very often there's something that went wrong, so they do a secondary one to just totally put an exclamation mark afterwards. So just when this happened, media looked right, boom, the Muslims, and then if that wasn't enough, then another event, identical more or less, in Paris happened the very next day. I would very much question that this happened at all, but it was totally the same thing, just to put the final underlining saying, yep, look that way, it was the Muslims. So this is the way they carry out these false flag operations. Either it's to be able to push forward their own agenda, or it's for diversion. In this case, diversion. So we come to 2014, and I was very honored to be asked to come there as one of the key speakers, not at the meeting itself, but outside the hotel. So
wait, hold on, I have one question. So there's kind of like an alternative meeting outside, basically, with the reporters, and then there's
this is what happened last night when everybody was put in this corral. That was where media and all the truth movement were in. That was the only place they were allowed, And then the Bilderberg meeting was like a mile away and did their own stuff. So this year, I thought it was quite odd because normally it comes out very late it leaks out very late where the actual meeting is going to take place. This year, it came out very early. It was like 2-3 months ahead of the meeting, and the meeting was just around the end of May and beginning of June. And also, one thing that I found very odd was that the location of the hotel was right in central Copenhagen, it doesn't really fit in with the normal pattern, because normally they choose very secluded areas or a hotel or castle that is easily controlled, for security forces, the police and so on, so they can control everyone coming in and out, and they've got aerial coverage, or, they want to meet in super privacy, and they do everything they can to make sure that that's the way it's carried out. So when I came, I flew in on the Wednesday. The meeting was supposed to start on Thursday, and so I was there like 12 hours ahead. And when I came to the airport, one of the things that I found odd was that there was the passport control. There was no one there. I just walked straight through, even though I came from Spain. And this is not normally the way it is surrounding these meetings. Security is amplified in different areas and so on. But I was happy for that, because the evening before, we were 4 key speakers. It was Luke Rudowski from We Are Change, Dan Dix from Canada, and a 9/11 expert, Professor Niels Harrit from Denmark. And the night before I arrived, Luke and Dan Dix had been arrested inside the Marriott Hotel because they had filming, and I think they refused to delete the footage because the security people came forward and said, you need to, and they refused, so they were arrested. So when I arrived to the airport, I thought maybe I'm going to have a little welcome committee here as well. And on the contrary, I could just walk straight through, which was wonderful. Anyway, so I was picked up by a friend, and I asked, do you mind if we go straight to the hotel and just see what it looks like and the location? And we drove there, and it was just so odd when we arrived because there was no sign, no of the normal signs. You know, the normal signs are that there would be police security, that the hotel will be surrounded, it will be emptied at midnight, you know, so that it's totally empty. There might be snipers around, you got helicopters, I mean, you got security. And we came to this hotel, even though it was in more or less central Copenhagen, there was very, very few people there, and only 2 police officers, Danish police officers, standing to the side of the hotel. So I thought, my God, is this really the real hotel? Maybe we made a mistake, you know. So we started looking around, and then what they had done was they put 3 identical black Mercedes limos right in front of the entrance, and these are the exact vehicles they always arrive to these meetings. They come like 2 Bilderberg members in each limo with bodyguards in front, sometimes with a car with bodyguards behind, follow up vehicle, and they come in a long row, chum chum chum, with these tinted windows and so on. And one of the only ways that people have been able to find out who were the members were by taking photos of these limos when they passed, and then trying to identify the people inside. And so these 3 vehicles were parked right outside the entrance. Absolutely no people, just 2 police officers and nothing else. I thought, this is so odd, this is so very strange, and why on earth would they pick a hotel right in central Copenhagen? Because when I started looking around, like security-wise, it absolutely sucked. You know, it was like it was right on the brink of a water canal, a big water canal going through Copenhagen, meaning that on that side, so many buildings in the surrounding part of Copenhagen had visual. They could see this hotel, and also if you got a guy with a Stinger missile or bazooka or whatever, rocket launcher, that would be a major threat, and you would have thousands of windows to cover security-wise, you know, if that is what you were afraid of. And also the whole hotel was built, you know, with glass facades so that you can look straight into the corridors, you can see who's inside there. Very odd when you want to try to keep it low profile. Also, it was, if you go to my website, lightonconspiracies.com, there's one menu where it says events. If you go there, there's one called Bilderberg 2014, and then you can go down there. There's one called false flag warning. If you click on that, you will see photos, aerial photos of the area, plus the things I'm going to explain about now, so maybe it would be easier for you to get an idea of it. So if you look from above, you got the water canal, and then right on the brink of that, you got the hotel itself. Then on the other side of the hotel, where the main entrance is, you got a big 2-lane street that is going through Copenhagen. And then on the other side of that, there's a big parking area. It's a graveled area, quite big. And this belongs to the police headquarters of Copenhagen. And their headquarters is just on the other side of this parking area. Then on the sides of this parking area, and with streets diverting it or separating it, are some high buildings, same height as the hotel, and these are banks and insurance companies. So it's a very open area in front of the hotel, very open, and then on the side, very high buildings. these high buildings are things they normally try to avoid because many windows, difficult to secure. Also, a main street that is passing right by the entrance, a major no-no when it comes to security, because then every single vehicle that passes could have hand grenades, bombs, bazookas, you name it. This is a very, very not smart location to choose. So I was so confused because I thought this does not make any sense at all. And these people are, I mean, they're very intelligent. You can't take that away from them. And they got top of the rank when it comes to security, military advisors, so on. So why on earth would they choose this one? I was really confused there for a while. So I started walking around, and we could walk all the way up to the hotel, almost looking in, which is also a no-no when it comes to these things. At the same time, while we were walking around there, they started building like a concrete wall around the hotel, like a meter-high concrete blocks that were put, and then they would put fence on top of it so that you couldn't look in or you couldn't get access there for the truce movement. Also, the parking area was what they were preparing for the truce movement, fenced in, and it was made in a way so that you could only enter in through one street, and that street was going straight to the direction of the main train station in Copenhagen, which was just 500 meters away. So I thought there must be a reason why they chose this of all the different hotels they could choose from, or castles or whatever. Why this one? Because security-wise, awful. I walked around, and the more I looked around, I thought there might be, the way I saw it, there was option one, a decoy. They want to use this hotel as a decoy. They're going to drive in some doubles in the hotel just to show us, yeah, we're in here. And then they will get the whole truce movement gathered in one place under control by the local police. And then they would meet somewhere else, totally different. Maybe in a castle or another hotel or maybe in another country, just so they could do their things without being disturbed.
You think it was a decoy?
I tell you, but the more I looked at it, I thought, why? It still didn't make sense. Why this hotel of all the hotels? And then suddenly it hit me. When all my years of looking upon false flag operations, I don't know how many I looked into and how great details I've been investigating the different methods and how they carry them out and what is needed to pull it off in the best possible way, seen from their point of view. Suddenly it just hit me, oh my God, this would be the perfect place to pull off a false flag massacre, blame it on the truce movement, and then through that massacre demonize the truce movement globally and use that as a way to really knock the whole movement out in one single blow. Because what I saw was that when I looked around, I saw that the buildings on the sides were banks and insurance companies owned by people, members of the elite group. So all the buildings, including the police headquarters, the police forces, also some, of course, that they control through these key people. So the whole area were buildings that they control, including the hotel. So what could do, I'm speculating now, I'm just pointing out what could have been planned. You get the whole truce movement into this corral, pack them in like sheep there. Preferably you would like 1,000, maybe 2,000 people, because you need action. Look at this as a film set, because the whole thing is, for these false flag operations, they need to get an emotion going. They need action, lots of awful things happening to get an emotional reaction from the population. And it's always the same one they're looking for. It's like, oh my God, something needs to be done. And then they turn towards me, who they elected to sort out these problems, like if I'm the Prime Minister of Denmark and so on, and then I will come with a solution. Do you see? Yeah. Problem, reaction, solution. It's an old Roman tactic. Yeah, so what they could... That's the one. That is the exact one. Yeah. So what they could have planned was to place out film crews in the different buildings, so they had it covered from all different angles. one film crew down the street, so with a wide angle covering, so you get both the truth movement and the side of the hotel with a facade as well in one picture. Then aerial photo with helicopters. Then what you would do is you would send in a few doubles in the hotel to just say, yes, we're in here, but the hotel itself would be more or less empty, but loaded with explosives. And these explosives would be directed straight forward, so that the whole explosion would go straight forward and land on top of all the debris. Everything would be aimed at the truth movement. Nothing on the sides, because these buildings, they would prefer not to be damaged. If you follow the template, their template, you would also be able to find out that I'm sure if this was the case, there was something wrong with this building, maybe a crack in the foundation, asbestos, something, fungus, something that would have cost one of their members millions to sort out. So what they do instead, following the template, is they, just a few weeks before this happened, they changed the insurance policy to include terror acts. So that they blow one building up, blame it on a patsy, demonize an enemy, and then they collect millions at the same time. So what they would do is the whole truth movement would be in there, controlled by Danish police, who had absolutely no idea that this was a planned massacre here. And then to stir the energy, because you need action. It's like you can't have a riot of 13 people, sitting having a barbecue. You need lots of people, lots of emotion, all of these things. So you would fill the hotel with explosives, then have secondary explosives in the area where the truth movement is, some smoke bombs there, maybe blood canister, these fake blood type of thing from theater blood that would also be connected to explosives, so that it would just squirt this red color everywhere. And then you would send in a group of provocateurs. They would look like truthers. They would send them in, and then these people would suddenly start shouting, really foul language, throwing things, maybe Molotov cocktails, throwing rocks at other people in the crowd just to get the whole agitation started. And if that wasn't enough, then they would send in a secondary team of provocateurs dressed in Danish police uniforms. They would then arrest a couple of people. Many times the people they arrest are also part of the provocateurs. And then they would drag these people right in front of the fenced-in area, right in front of them, and maybe start hitting them. This would make the whole crowd go mad. Everybody would scream, let him go, and start shouting, screaming. And then once that whole atmosphere was created, boom, then you blow out the whole front of the hotel, on top of the truth movement. And then the secondary explosive, you would have dead bodies, smoke, awful images being pumped out. And then in media, it would be pumped out right away that it was the deed of this truth movement. It would then be said that, oh, look at this truth movement, here they are trying to create a new peaceful world. And what did they do? They massacred this poor little innocent elite group who is just having a nice little tea and a biscuit. And here, so by doing this, what we need to do, we need to ban all rights to demonstrate. We need to ban all rights to protest. We need to ban all rights to gather in big groups. And we need to censor the internet so that this type of information cannot be spread, because the truth movement is using the internet as their tool to create massacres like this. So we need to censor it. We need to shut down radio station programs like yours. We need all type of alternative media. Stop at that, because it's a threat to humanity.
Do you think that they would really get away with that, though? I know that they would try that, but if they took it to that extreme, do you think that more people would wake up and see how, because they're taking and kind of wonder, because they're taking such extreme measures to squash freedom of speech and freedom of expression and freedom of assembly, the right to assembly?
I tell you, they're pulling it up all the time, aren't they? They're doing all these mass shootings, and we're just standing and nobody is reacting. You got awful things happening in Oslo, and they blew up Madrid, the trains in Madrid, they blew 7-7, and these people are capable of real atrocities. Anyway,
No, I know what you're talking about. I'm just saying, like, if it got to the point where, because of these atrocities, they start squelching, people's right to assembly and freedom of speech and stuff, do you think that would probably wake even more people up? Because then they'll see also, they can kind of, they'd really have to wonder, why are they coming so hard,
Right.
coming out so hard.
I see what you're saying, but the thing is that they just do it, as soon as these things happen, boom, the rules are changed. And then it's very hard to deal, with, then suddenly you have a lot of surveillance on, this is the way dictators do it.
Yeah.
So they...
You're right, yeah.
I'm saying one again, study world history, study how Ayatollah Khomeini, Mussolini, Adolf Hitler, how did they do it? Stalin did the same. Look at what's going on now. So anyway, what I did was that I went home to a friend who had internet access, and I called up a man I know. His name is Chip Tatum. Yeah, you can check him out on chiptatum.com. He's a whistleblower now, but he was a deep cover CIA agent for 25 years. He was a black op assassin. He was a Night Stalker pilot, one of these black helicopter pilots. He was one of the pilots in the whole Iran Contra scandal with weapons out of the States and drugs, tons of drugs back into the States. He was also the commander of a super secret team of assassins called Pegasus, and this was under the private control of George Bush Sr. They were sent on at least 17 missions globally, taking people out globally. And he was also during his career, he was taking part in false flag operations. So not an amateur. So I called him, I said, Chip, listen, I get this very eerie feeling from this whole setup. So he said, please describe the location, please describe everything. So I did exactly what I told you right now. I just described the whole thing. He said, this sounds very, very plausible. He said, get out, be aware of anything that can contain explosives, like fake parking meters, the steel tubes for the fences, all type of these things. Be aware of weird people, cables. I can't remember what he said about weird sounds and so on as well. And so he said this might very well be what they're planning. I then called Professor Jim Fetzer, who's a former Marine soldier, but also he spent his whole adult life looking into 9/11, JFK, Sandy Hook, and operations like this. He said exactly the same. I was also in touch with one who had 27 years of experience within different security services, security forces, and so on. He said, it sounds very much like this is the setup. So once I got that confirmed, that it's not only me being paranoid or making things up, I thought I need to do something. So what I did was I contacted a handful of radio stations internationally, New Zealand, Canada, the States, many different countries in Europe and so on. And I got the radio host to record the date and the time, saying, this is what I God forbid, suspect might happen. If so, please understand that this was recorded beforehand and that the Truth Movement was totally innocent, that this was an inside job trying to demonize the Truth Movement. But my intention was much more to try and defuse this by putting the spotlight right on them, saying, if you pull that trigger, if you pull it, we knew beforehand what you were up to, So I spent until 4 o'clock that morning with these radio stations, and then the next morning I went to the area. I was one of the first people there. And do you know what I found? I found a 6-meter big pentagram made of train sleepers put right in the area.
Yeah, I saw that on your website. I was going to ask you about that.
There were two pentagrams next to each other right there. So could you imagine the impact of an image like that? If you take it from above, you got the explosion, you got smoke, you got dead bodies, you got the Truth Movement, all of these things, and right in the middle of all of this, there's a massive big pentagram. Can you imagine the impact going globally?
Yeah.
I mean, so I and a friend, we went straight up and did everything. We just pulled the whole thing apart. this pentagram and these things. And I don't know, maybe this is pure speculation that it was not planned, but I tell you there were so many signs pointing in that direction. And one of the things I think is very important is that up until now, when it comes to mass shootings and false flag operations, it's always afterwards that we react. It's always afterwards that we become aware of them. But I would say to all the listeners, please start becoming aware of these signs, because very often they go out in local newspapers and they say that today at 11 o'clock we're going to have a drill about a school shooting, or a drill terror act, or a drill evacuation, or a drill something. As soon as you hear the word drill, go there, start filming them. Just get your cell phones up there, make them aware that you are looking at them, make them aware that they're being observed, and get it out on YouTube right away, because this is a possible way of defusing it before it happens. Also, they set it up like film sets, so maybe they will say that, this is for Fanta orange juice or something like that, stupid, but the whole setup is for a false flag operation. Go there, film them, show them that we see them, and then let's see if we can stop this madness.
Yeah, that's really great advice. Really good insight. We're just about out of time, but I just want to ask you where, or tell our listeners again where they can find you, your website, and your books, and any other thing that you would like to promote.
It's my website is lightonconspiracies.com. That's conspiracies, because there's more than one going on, even though, as far as I can see, so many of them are connected. One of my books is called Coup d'etat in slow motion. That's the one with all the Bilderberg membership list. That is also, it's about the assassination of the Swedish Prime Minister, but also with all the connections globally, because this was not a Swedish assassination. It was just a member of their own group that they wanted to get rid of. And there's so many connections going all the way back to JFK and many of the other major ones. And please, if you feel like supporting what I've been doing, I'm just an ordinary guy trying to do my best. Sign up for my newsletter, become a member, buy my book. Anything like that is extremely appreciated.
And there's a lot of information on the site, so it's you have a lot of so it's pretty worth it. Okay.
Would it be okay if I finish with a prayer?
Yes,
please. Go ahead.
It's I'm not a religious person, but this is a prayer that I really love, and it goes like this. May the entire universe be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May everyone, and especially the ones who hurt us, be filled with peace and joy, love and light. Victory to that light.
All right, that's nice.
Very lovely, yes.
Thank
you
you
for that. And thanks for being on our show today. Again, lightonconspiracies.com is the website. Sign up for the mailing list so you can keep up with what Ole's researching and doing. Thanks for being on the show. Everybody stay with us. When we get back, Christina and I will close it out. But Ole, enjoy the rest of your day, and we appreciate you as always.
Thank you.
Anytime I can make a difference, you can count me in.
Oh, I should say. All right, thanks, Ole.
Thank you.
I was on holiday with Sir Lawrence Olivier. We had decided that 9/11 was an intelligence operation. We'd all known about JFK. He had so many mistresses. The CIA shot him. Castro could never have done it. It was clear. We had become realists, conspiracy realists. How would we let everyone know was the question. We decided to buy T-shirts that told the contents of our hearts and minds to the world. We went to shop.truthertees.com. Even though the internet hadn't been invented at the time, we went to shop.truthertees.com. There we purchased Conspiracy Realist T-shirts, one of a kind, sold only at shop.truthertees.com. 100% cotton in men's and women's fitted sizes. I won't tell you which one I'm wearing.
According to a report in WorldNet Daily, some of the richest men and women in the world met secretly in New York recently. When the world's wealthiest individuals hold secret meetings, it's time to pay attention. In 1910, the 6 wealthiest men in the world met at Jekyll Island, Georgia. That meeting resulted in the creation, 3 years later, of the largest criminal enterprise ever devised, the Federal Reserve, so-called. Judging from the list of participants, the recent meeting in New York may result in something even more monumental. The London Times identified them as Bill Gates, David Rockefeller, Ted Turner, Oprah Winfrey, Warren Buffett, George Soros, and New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg. Based on the Forbes magazine list of billionaires, the room had a net worth of about $120 billion. With all the bailout figures we've heard recently, that doesn't sound like that much. Believe me, it is. $120 billion is about equal to the annual budget for all of New York State, from New York City to Buffalo and everything in between. The meeting, which took place in early May, was at the home of Sir Paul Nurse, a British Nobel Prize-winning biochemist and president of Rockefeller University. Microsoft's founder, Bill Gates, called the meeting. The London Times reported the informal afternoon session was so discreet that some of the billionaire's aides were told they were at security briefings. Discreet is the British way of saying secret. I do not believe that it is coincidental that this meeting came only a couple of weeks after another super-secret and more powerful group met in the secrecy in Greece, the Bilderberg Group. They have advocated a one-world government for at least a century. They also see themselves as the elite saviors of mankind. According to the Times, the billionaires were each given 15 minutes to present their favorite cause. Over dinner, they discussed how they might settle on an umbrella cause that could harness their interests. Taking their cue from Gates, the report said they agreed that population control was the #1 issue. Experts say the global population will top 7 billion in 2012. According to reports at the meeting, Bill Gates outlined a plan to cap the global population at 8.3 billion. It all sounds so civilized, doesn't it? Here's the less politically correct but more accurate version. A group of unelected liberals with more money than many governments have just decided how many people will be permitted to live. This group of self-appointed governors will now have to draw up criteria to be used to decide who will not be permitted to live and how they will die. It can and will be dressed up in polite and civil terms, but in the end, it means certain people will have to die. The meeting was billed as a meeting of philanthropists wanting to do good. But one can put lipstick and pearls on a pig, and it'll still be a pig. In the final analysis, there's only one way to cap a population, by deciding who's permitted to live, and who, for the good of all, must die.
I was on holiday with Sir Laurence Olivier. We had decided that 9/11 was an intelligence operation. We'd all known about JFK, had so many mistresses. The CIA shot him. Castro could never have done it. It was clear. We had become realists, conspiracy realists. How would we let everyone know was the question. We decided to buy T-shirts that told the contents of our hearts and minds to the world. We went to shop.truthandtease.com. Even though the internet hadn't been invented at the time, we went to shop.truthandtease.com. There we purchased conspiracy realist T-shirts, one of a kind, sold only at shop.truthandtease.com. 100% cotton in men's and women's fitted sizes. I won't tell you which one I'm wearing.
1945 and the end of the war through 1989 and the end of the Cold War, we had a worldview. Republican and Democratic presidents alike, from Harry Truman to George Bush, stood for freedom. and stood for certain propositions that would make America strong and healthy and grow the middle class and shrink poverty and stand against communism. And after 1989, President Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order, and instead it looks like we got a lot of disorder. And we still, and after 9/11, we've been more sensitive to the.
I was on holiday with Sir Lawrence Olivier. We had decided that 9/11 was an intelligence operation. We'd all known about JFK, had so many mistresses. The CIA shot him. Castro could never have done it. It was clear. We had become realists, conspiracy realists. How would we let everyone know was the question. We decided to buy T-shirts that told the contents of our hearts and minds to the world. We went to shop.truthattease.com. Even though the internet hadn't been invented at the time, we went to shop.truthattease.com. There we purchased Conspiracy Realist T-shirts, one of a kind, sold only at shop.truthattease.com. 100% cotton in men's and women's fitted sizes. I won't tell you which one I'm wearing.
You know, I love how they have people out here videotaping all us to put us in digital databases like we've done something wrong. But we're going to videotape all of your faces and put you in the public database. So when we have the new Nuremberg trials, you can be brought up for questioning. Understand that. You understand that? The Bilderberg group is destroying this entire society, and we are going to defeat it. Woo! Yeah! The New World Order will fall. Yeah! Humanity will defeat you. Yeah! We're coming for you. The sleeping giant that is humanity is rising. Perhaps we'll have to ride them down with our horses as a breakfast system. Good God, one of them is talking. Get over there. If we let one ant stand up, they might all stand up. Those little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever realize that, that's the end of us! So intimidate that scum! No! Deal with him! Deal with him! Hold on, we're not going... no, send the horses back! Send them back! Stop scaring them! What is that slave of heaven doing? Daring to open his filthy mouth at me? His tax money is mine! We're so intimidated. The security, the obese security has shaved heads. It's so frightening. They have goatees as well. Oh God! Oh, run for the hills! They've got goatees and shaved heads. They're so sinister. Nothing to do with shaved heads. My hair's falling out too. But they all have shaved heads. How do you get into Bilderberg? Have a tight-fitting black suit, act powerful, have a shaved head and a goatee, and don't have a girlfriend. Then you immediately be admitted into the girl to service Henry Kissinger's colostomy bag.
We are not your slaves! Waking up every morning knowing you're going to face me.
Wind shade, people shading.
The last 4 years.
Everything I'm looking at seems crazy. The newspaper, the television, nothing's right. Nothing's telling me what's true. It's like I fell into a bucket of cream and kicked my legs until I became a mouse. What's that about? I'm a conspiracy realist, not a conspiracy theorist. I want a t-shirt that represents me. What? There's one that's available? Go to shop.truthertease.com, says the voice in my head. Shop.truthertease.com. It's not crazy. I'm not afraid to go on the internet and go to shop.truthertease.com. I'm not scared. I've taken out bowling balls that look like you. That's what I said. Straighten out. Get your conspiracy realist t-shirt. Don't make me come over there. You look good. You look good.
Hey there, welcome back. Thanks for listening to Truth or Talk. Thanks for hanging in there with us today. So we just got off with Ole Dammegard, Light on Conspiracies.
Wow, yeah, he's really sweet.
Yeah, and I know you especially, we both do, but often enjoy when people from other countries come on and they can talk about the perspective, international perspective on some of these things that we, being awake, in other countries, like what is it like over there, as opposed to what it's like here in the U.S., and
it seems like it's about the same. Or depending on the subject, though, I guess too.
Right.
Right, because there's still people. I got into a debate with a dude a few months ago from Germany, and we were talking about chemtrails, and he's like, "No, that is not it." I'm like, "No, you look up in the sky." He's like, "No," Okay. I was like, "Well, maybe they don't have them in your country," and then somebody was like, "Yeah, they do," but he's like, "Oh, this is not a conspiracy." Like, whatever. I know that was a bad German accent, but anyway, it was just like, how do you not? I mean, chemtrails. I don't get, especially if you were alive before they started spraying. How do you think that that's normal or that's okay?
Right.
And even it's weird because there are even people that don't even know about geoengineering, because I have some people that have looked into it. I'll still debate. They're like, "Oh no, it's a global warming. They're trying to save us." But the people that don't even have that argument. I mean, which I don't agree with. I don't think it's for global warming. But at least they'll have something. But they'll just be like, "No, that's normal. Like, what's wrong with you? You must have sniffed the chemtrails. That's why. It must be in your brain. Obviously,
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I know, that is a weird one. Like, how do you just not see it? Did you ever see that guy? He's an actor, comedian. He's been on the Alex Jones show a few times. Joe Rogan. He had a show, and it was, I don't know if it's still on. It was really, really bad. And I caught it one night with my husband, and we thought it was going to be kind of like Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura, but it was so like a wannabe that, but just like way, way, way worse, and it was just terrible. Actually, Jesse's show I thought was pretty good, but he did a show on chemtrails, and he was like basically trying to debunk any theories on chemtrails, and he interviewed Michael Murphy, who did the two films, What in the World and Why in the World Are They Spraying Us? And he was, it was real obvious when he was interviewing him that he was basically wouldn't let him finish speaking, wouldn't let him, finish an articulate point, and then he went on to say something like he was. What did he do? Oh, and then it looked cut. That was the other thing about the interview. It looked like it was chopped up, And then he was like, "Oh, I'm not buying what Michael Murphy is trying to sell me." And then he brought in a bunch of kooks. Michael Murphy was the only sane one. And then he brought in this other guy that was like into alien Palladians or whatever. And, and it was obvious that he was trying to bring this person in so that they wouldn't look credible. And he came in and had this, they went into his house, this guy that he was interviewing, and he was talking to him, and he seemed normal, like everything was on the up and up, and then all of a sudden he's like, well, what are these pictures of? And he's like, oh, those are my, like, alien relatives or whatever, you know? And then you're going, oh, come on, you know, you just did that on purpose. Like, you know that these guys knew that this guy was into these types of conspiracies. And I'm not trying to diss the guy or say that he was crazy. I'm saying they wanted him to look crazy. Yeah. And, you know, he probably isn't. But, you know, and he probably believes what he believes. And
maybe, you know, who knows what his experiences are, you know.
Exactly. I mean, come on. Yeah. If you listen to some of the stories of the Bible or, you know, the Talmud or the, you know, the Torah, like some of these religious things, it's just as wacky as believing in aliens. And it's not even necessarily wacky, it's just mythology. It's you know, how these stories are presented and how they're told. So why aren't everybody who has some kind of religious or spiritual belief crazy? So, I'm not trying to say that this guy was nuts, but I'm just saying that
they just basically fixed it to make them look.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was upsetting, and he was trying to say that, you know, chemtrails aren't real, and you know, the reason you can tell that chemtrails aren't real is because he's like, well, the reason that they look like clouds is because they are clouds. And I'm like, they don't look like clouds? What makes you think that they look like clouds? Like, it was just a really bizarre comment. And that's what Joe Rogan was saying, and I was very disappointed because I thought that he was supposed to be, like, liberty-minded and he was open-minded to this kind of thing. And then it turned out it was just basically, like, to manipulate.
I wonder if he actually believes that.
I don't know. I mean,
I know you don't know. I'm just, you know, wondering.
Yeah,
because you see people that do stuff like this and you're like, do they really believe this, or are they being paid or coerced into doing this?
Right.
You know, or have they not looked into it? Or they're not using their common sense? What is up, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't really say by watching the show, you know, he's an actor, so he seemed convincing in that he didn't necessarily believe it, but then he's an actor, so maybe he's just was playing a part, and that's what he was saying. But, I don't know, I can't say that I ever was a big fan of his or anything, but I just know that some people listen to his podcast. I never did, so I'm sure it was okay.
Yeah, I don't think you missed anything. It was like,
I know. I was just like, well, whatever. I don't know. I just never got into him. I don't know. And because back in the day, he was on this show called News Radio, and
with Phil Hartman. Is that with Phil Hartman?
Yeah. And I wasn't crazy. I mean, his character, I didn't think much of. I liked Phil Hartman. He was really good on that show, and he was my favorite character. And then there was that other guy who played the boss, who's also in Office Space. I don't remember the actor's name. There was a few characters on there that I liked. Him, to me, was just kind of like, okay. And his stand-up, I always thought was just sort of okay. So I wasn't crushed or anything, like, oh, you know, I was just sort of disappointed that it was such a poorly done show and they had such a poorly done argument. His argument basically was that it looks like clouds, so it is, but then it doesn't look like clouds. So it's like, I don't get your argument.
Well, it pisses me off, too, when they take, because Michael Murphy's a nice guy. I've met him. Mm-hmm. And I think what him and his people are trying to do is very honest and genuine. And when they, like, humiliate people like that on purpose, you know, it just pisses me off. It's a form of bullying. I swear to God. Like, I just want to, like, smack people that do that shit. Because even though we don't even have people, you know, we have people who come to the show that we want to hear maybe a point of view. We're not going to have anybody that we disagree with and, you know, trick them like that. That's just low. How do you do that to somebody?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I've never thought of it to call it that, but it is a form of bullying. Why would you bring somebody in there just to trick them? And, you know, the show was called Joe Rogan Question Everything, and it was on the Sci-Fi Network. I don't know if it's still...
Well, including Joe Rogan. Question his ass.
Question his show and the motives of his show, and then just the fact that it's on Sci-Fi Network, you know, to begin with, it's like it's so obvious that they're trying to make it into a conspiracy. not give it any validity at all, you know. But yeah, I was really disappointed when he talked about that, and that's because that is one of the things that is very obvious. And I kind of tuned out everything else that he did after that, and there was a couple others that I never saw him do anything that really struck me or interested me beyond that. It was like he was debunking all kinds of stuff, alien things, and creatures that washed up on shores, you know, I don't know, whatever. But it just seems like it's a counter argument, and they wanted to have somebody who's kind of like in the middle, who sort of attracted some of the, I guess, what they would call the conspiracy culture or the truth movement people. So he was kind of somebody. He's been on Alex Jones. He's liberty-minded. He was, you know, I guess maybe a Ron Paul, or I don't know, but about that, but something along those lines.
Yeah, but the chemtrails and 9/11. I'm sorry, that's like conspiracy 101. Like those are the two things that I think are like the most obvious that the official story that we were told isn't correct. So,
right.
I mean, I don't know. Each his own.
Yeah.
But like you said, it doesn't seem like you missed anything. And you know, it probably actually backfired because I'm sure because you know, people. It's funny too. They underestimate. I think people that are seeking truth are grossly underestimated. And you know, that's where they get. You know, that's where you know their plan is going to fall apart too, because they're people that you know when you're honest. Search for truth, you do question everything. You're not going to just watch your favorite celebrity say something and just believe what they say because they're your favorite celebrity. You know,
right.
Most likely you'll end up losing fans because of it.
Yeah.
You know,
and right, and then the same token, you don't want to just. I'm sorry, keep going.
Oh no, you're right. I mean, go on.
I was just saying the same token, you don't want to just dismiss anybody, people that say things because they are a celebrity or because they are, you know, I mean, people, the truth movement can go to the other side and get super duper paranoid and just dismiss anything everybody says and calls everybody an agent. This guy isn't necessarily Joe Rogan, an agent, but he just is. You know, maybe he's self-interested and he wants to have his own show and make his money, so he's going to do what they tell him to do and go and interview people he does. I mean, you know, sometimes these grand conspiracies aren't really all that grand. They're really not that interesting. They're just basic self-interested people who want what they want.
Egomaniacal people.
Exactly.
Actually, David Icke talks about that. He's heard the me speech. He's like, me. But it's true because that's how people get tied up too. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Right, and I think go ahead.
Oh no, so he has celebrities. He talks about how he has celebrities that come up with him and they say, "Oh, we love your work. We totally agree what you're doing," but you know they haven't come out and said anything about how they feel about what's going on. And I don't remember, did we talk about this? I don't remember if we talked about this off air or on air, but we were talking about like how we wonder, you know, do people that get super famous, do they have their families threatened if they start to, if they speak out on certain things, or do they have their career threatened? And we kind of came to the conclusion, and we're just, you know, of course we don't know, but we were making speculation that just to blackmail somebody by having their career taken away is enough, because you sacrifice so much to get to that level, you know, and you have a lot of power when you get to that level too. So if that's taken away from you, some people can't handle it, you know, to be too much to them, you know.
Yeah, not only that, but like, do you think that sometimes they can put, or I think that sometimes they can do this, and this is what I'm asking you, is if you think so, if you agree, they can put these celebrities in compromising positions, and then they have something to hoard over them. Like, in other words... Yeah,
I do. Somebody was telling me that I don't know how true this is. I'm just saying what I heard, okay? I don't have any facts. I don't have any peer-reviewed studies to back this up, okay? So I'm just saying what I heard. But when you live in LA too, and you come in contact with people in the entertainment industry, you just hear a lot of stories throughout the years, and sometimes you hear the same things over and over again, and you wonder if it's true, and you're hearing it from different people. So you're like, So I've heard from a few people that they do. There's some people that do blackmail, and the people that have pictures of certain celebrities will get them drunk or have sex with them or rape them or put them. I've heard Alex Jones talk about it though. And they do that. But there's a drug called, there's a documentary, they've done this drug, I think Vice TV did, it's called, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's like scopolamine. And what happens is, it's in Colombia, it's a concoction of flour and some other things, and it's a powerful hallucinogen to the point where, like, it makes you hallucinate to the point where anybody that's around you, they tell you what to do and you'll do it, whether it's uncompromising or not. If they're like, kill your best friend, you'll kill it. So for most people, they use absolute willpower. They interviewed this one woman that helped these guys, had her to rob her own house.
Wow.
Well, they got her high at a club and they took her back, and then. And it was they got a few people to do it, and one, I think it was a guy, because it was a woman and they had a guy do too, and the guy's like, hey, because he lived in, I think, in a secured apartment building where there's like security downstairs and everything, and he was like, hey, I woke up and my apartment was gone, and he was like, the furniture in my apartment and all my stuff, had been robbed, and the security guy was like, yeah, but I saw you helping them carry the stuff out to the truck, and he's like, what? I don't even remember that,
Oh, wow.
So it gets you, it's one of the scariest things I've ever seen. If you guys are listening, you can, like, Google world's deadliest or dangerous drug, most scariest drug, the world's scariest drug. Anyway. So I'm just saying, people get, when you're in a position of power, you can get a hold of anything you want to. Why couldn't they do that to somebody and fuck them up, Make them do something, make them run naked in the street, make them, do whatever, rape somebody or kill somebody or,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
and then just take a picture, just happen to be there. Oops, cheeky,
Oh yeah, and then and also, I think in a lot of these cases, they don't even have to do that. They sort of seduce them into this culture, this life. I think that's what a lot of these secret societies, like we were talking about with Ole, what that is about. They seduce them into Bohemian Grove, and they say, you're one of us now. You're one of the elite. And they play to the ego again, and then they get them in there, and then once you're in there and you're doing all that freaky deaky shit, you're not going to say a word because you're a part. So it's like, and I'm sure drugs are involved a lot.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. And
but maybe not always, but I think probably most of the time there are some sort of drugs because it's just easier and people will loosen up and, some of these drugs, like you said, that are really scary. They can make you do very, very suggestive things. So hallucinogenic in nature can make people have no clue where they are and what they're doing and so on and so forth. I think you brought it up during the interview. I can't remember, but we were talking about some of these MK Ultra people, like Arizona Wilder and Kathy O'Brien. And one of the things I remember Kathy O'Brien talking about with this is kind of how they would use these sort of hallucinogenic drugs, bring people into just what we're talking about, what we're describing. Bring people in and kind of get them to suspend logic and so on and so forth, and then. But they wouldn't let them use marijuana. Remember she said that they wouldn't let them use that because that actually gave you a clearer mind. Well, that was kind of interesting. Okay, so Ole we were asking him about that, and he does have some information on it, but it wasn't necessarily his area of expertise. But about how they manufacture these serial killers, and that is something that the MK Ultra projects do is. Take people and they mind control them and teach them how to train them into being assassins. So it's like they're not necessarily technically aliens, but they do take away their ability to be human.
Yes.
You know, it's because, and so then you see this very abnormal human behavior, and you know, we find it so like prevalent. It's like it's in so many different areas, and it's always like we keep bringing up how it's always like the same doctors that work.
Oh yeah. It is like Jolyon West. Yeah.
And the people that work under him, and so on and so forth. It's just really, really weird, and really, really twisted. But we find it in so many different areas of these conspiracies. It's like
Oklahoma
yeah, the Oklahoma City bombing with Timothy McVeigh, and you know, the Robert Kennedy assassination, as Ole was mentioning, and Sirhan Sirhan had the same doctor as Timothy McVeigh, Dr. Jolyon West. Who else? There was somebody else. Jolyon West. I mean, a bunch of people. You know, want to look into that. There's so many. So, and they use these mind control techniques, and so I don't know. I mean, it kind of gives me the creeps, no?
Yeah, it does.
It gives you the creeps, and they do it, and they're able to do this because they do it in secret. Because they go in and they have their little secret societies and their secret cabals, and that's what, you know, I remember Jim Tucker years ago when I was like first probably coming into all this information, and I was watching videos with Jim Tucker, who wrote the Bilderberg Diaries, and he exposed the Bilderberger group, and some other secret societies as well, but that was the one he was famous for. And he was like, someone asked him, and they said, well, why do they meet in secret? And he says, because they're doing evil things, you know. It's like, you know, he goes, if you're doing something, if it's good, then you do it in the daylight. There's no reason to be in shadow. So, you know, they're doing evil. And I was like, wow, that's really simple. Simply put, and it's probably very accurate. So it's just interesting how all these things kind of tie in, you know, because we're talking to Ole about these secret societies, and then how that tied into his, also some of the research that he's done on some of these assassinations, because there's no other way you can get people to do those things, and unless they're doing it in secret. Yes, it's creepy. Anyway, I think we're just about out of time here, so we're going to go ahead and close out our show. But we thank Ole Dammegard for being on our show today. You can find him at lightonconspiracies.com. Till next time, peace, truth, and love, y'all.
Peace, truth, love you guys. Bye-bye.